Okay, everybody, welcome to the show. Forgive the iPhone video here. My other camera's down, so just bear with me for a few weeks here. Today, kind of looking at a question, something that I hear rumblings of, which is the real estate market's going to crash and hold out. Don't buy anything now because it's all going to come crashing down soon. Okay, well, let's get into that because that's loaded statements that we need to dissect a little bit to kind of get into it. Before we do that, this is mostly going out to our newsletter on the 1911 Syndicate now. So, hey, if you're seeing this, if you guys ever need real estate help, let us know. That is largely how the 1911 Syndicate stays in business because gun content ain't the most profitable thing in the world. So, let us know if you ever need help anywhere in the U.S. or Paris for that matter. We do know an agent in Paris. So, hey, just throwing it out there. Okay, so let's get into the notion of the real estate market's going to crash and you should hold off and you should wait. First things first, you can't predict that, okay? No one can predict that. Let's go back in time. Let's use history as a little bit of a lesson here. Go back to the, 07, 08 era. You might recall a movie called The Big Short. That's about basically, hey, only a couple of dudes inside of the whole damn system that were predicting that kind of figured out, hang on, we're sitting on a house of cards here and this thing's going to crash. Michael Burry and then one of the other dudes, blanking on his name. So, hey, look, those of us who would actually watch a video like this, you can't predict what's going to happen with the economy, not to any level of actual certainty. But let's look at what has happened. So we had, because I do not believe the real estate market is going to crash. I believe it's actually going to go up, and I'm going to kind of tell you why. So we had high inflation, right? That was a thing that happened through that era of like 2020 and all of that. We had high inflation, cost of goods is rising too quickly, yada, yada, yada. So what does the Fed do? The Federal Reserve comes in, they raise the interest rates, right? And they start climbing somewhere around April or May of 22. And they've been on these steady kind of like 25 basis point hikes ever since then. I think there was a couple of 50s in there too. And they're talking about there might be one more, but it sounds like that maybe that next one that's coming as soon as, roughly now, it's probably about the end of it. Okay. Because if you look at what's happened, the point of raising the interest rates is to cool off the market, slow down the price increases in these sort of just like rampant out of control markets, real estate being one of them, stocks and other things being within that as well. So now if we look currently, it appears that the inflation is largely under control. Most of the data, at least on the surface level that I track this stuff, most of the data that's coming out now suggests we kind of got inflation back down to the point where we're reasonably comfortable with it. So if it took us going to 7% to get the inflation at a reasonable number, it means we're probably not going to go much above that 7%. Again, maybe we get like one more bump, but there's no indication that we're about to go to 8 or 9 or 10 or 15% interest rate or anything like that. So if you say, okay, going to 17 has cooled off the inflation to the point where it's like we're kind of comfortable with it. Well, what's the result that it's had on the housing market? Well, the housing market, there's all kinds of different stats that you can pull and everything, but based on what I'm looking at, it seems that nationwide, the real estate market dropped about 3%. Okay, so what does that come down to in terms of real numbers? If we say, hey, average home price is somewhere in the neighborhood of just 400 grand, you go, okay, 300% is $12,000. And in the grand scheme of things, in terms of your down payments, mortgage payments, all that kind of stuff, home values in general, 12 grand ain't nothing, guys. Like it's nothing. It's not even enough that you're going to feel. Okay. Every $10,000 on the purchase price equates to about $50 a month. So you're talking about on your payment, about a $50 a month difference. Most people aren't really going to truly feel $50. $50 is within a range where like, yeah, it's like my couple of subscriptions a month are $50. So if that's the case, that inflation's under control, the housing market's only dropped 3%, and we're kind of done with interest rate hikes, why would the real estate market crash? That's the question. Why would it crash? Because if it was going to happen, you would really be seeing the indications at this point. And by the way, hey, I'm just another dude spitting out an opinion, but the opinion's based on real metrics here, which are just logic. I'm not the smartest guy in the room by a long shot, but it's like I can do sort of the basic side of economics, and you just go, okay, why would it crash? If it was going to crash, wouldn't we be seeing this now? And I'll give you a couple reasons why I don't believe it will happen. One, people are going, okay, if you look at the foreclosure market, this is not going to be there's no 2008 scenario coming where there's just tons and tons of foreclosures. Why? Because the vast majority of people bought their homes in a time let's just call it 2020, when the values really started to skyrocket. So you go, why would you get foreclosed on now? If you were in desperate times because you lost your job or something, you've got a cushion of equity in your home, you would just sell the house and just go, well, I'm not going to get foreclosed on. I've at least got 30 grand in equity, so let's just sell the house, take the cash, go rent something for a little bit until I can buy again. So you go, hey, look, this is not going to be a 2008 foreclosure situation. Also, unlike '08, the lending practices are good. Like, loans aren't being done now in that like early 2000s era where people were just like, they could get a loan for anything. It didn't really matter what they were technically qualified for, they could just get loans. It's not like that. Because of the last crash, there are proper lending practices in place in terms of debt to income ratios and credit scores and all this kind of stuff. So, okay, lending practices are good. People have equity cushions in their house, so there's not going to be foreclosures. And then the other one is, you go, inventory is still extremely low. Okay, so there's not this endless supply of houses that are just sitting on the market collecting dust, which is therefore how you get to the scenario of, well, I guess we got to start slashing our prices because everyone's house is just sitting on the market without selling. It's not like that. There's no real inventory. And I can just tell you from a personal perspective, I mean, I put in an offer for a client last week here in Utah, and we didn't get it. We offered them the listing price, right? It was right at 500. We offered them 500, no, closing costs that we're asking for, nothing, and we didn't get it because they had multiple offers, and clearly someone within the offer pool might have only been two offers for all I know, but someone certainly went over list price. Otherwise, we would have gotten it. So you go, I mean, houses aren't just collecting dust and slashing prices. So I do not see, based on logic and just some simple numbers and stats, where this real estate crash is coming from. So where does that get us to? It gets us to a place that if you're sitting on the sideline right now and you're waiting for that crash, and that crash is when you're going to buy something, do not hold your breath on that game, because I don't think it's coming. I would much rather, and I'm beating the dead horse here. I mean, I've been saying this for probably better part of a year now, which is, look, man, these buyers are sitting on the sidelines right now because the rates are high, that their payment is high, and they're just like, oh, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to wait for the interest rates to drop when my payment will be lower. The problem is everyone else is playing that same game. Therefore, you're going to have this surge of buyers enter the market when the rates drop. What's that going to do to the home values? Well, now everyone's just fighting tooth and nail for the same pool of houses. Therefore, the prices are going to go up, and you're going to have a 2020, 21 style, bidding wars, all this kind of stuff. Houses, prices are skyrocketing. That's what I see happening. And again, it's not based on any secret sauce that I know that no one else knows. It's like, there's just kind of simple logic on this. So that's why I do not think the real estate market will crash. And that's why, if you are waiting for it to crash, I would go ahead and get off that bench and probably go ahead and start shopping for something, because I think it's going to be way worse once the rates actually drop. The good news is, when rates drop, you can, if you already own the house, you can always refinance and just get your interest, get your mortgage rate down. So that's what I would do. Again, hey, if you guys need real estate help, let us know. You can subscribe to this channel if you ever feel like it, or don't. That one's kind of on you. And anyway, we'll talk to you guys soon.